All right. Hey everybody, welcome to our live stream. I'm going to check on the health of everything, make sure that we're getting our sound through and all that sort of stuff. Uh, let's get the stream up. And if there's anybody who's with us right now, just comment, let me know you can hear me, that sort of thing. That always helps. Hopefully I've fixed the 720p problem, but if I haven't, we're just going to have to live with it. All right. 720p. Cool. Looks like we are up and running. I'm going to switch it over to our pairing view because I actually have a guest today, which is this is the first time I've done this. So may need to bear with me as we get this set up. Um, with me today, we've got Leandro Pereira. He's the author of Beacon CMS. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. So, I am Leandro Pereira. I've been working at Dockyard building the Beacon CMS project, and Beacon is a Phoenix Live View CMS. Um, we have some cool features. We have like the visual editor, and we are close to release the 0.1 version, which is the first stable version for Beacon. And today we are gonna write some generators for Beacon using Igniter. I'm really excited because Igniter is gonna open new possibilities for Beacon CMS. So yeah, I'm excited for it.
Awesome. All right. So I've updated our live stream description and all of that to show what we're working on. And the next thing is going to be we've got some people here. So the big question is going to be how legible is your text editor, just to make sure that people have a chance to follow along. I've often found that if I want to do this right, I like basically I need to make it like frustratingly large on the screen, like I look at it, it's usually typically really small, um, but to make it visible, sometimes there's some stuff there. So let
Yeah,
me pull up the stream and see what it looks like to me, but we can also ask chat what they think. Um,
yeah, yeah. We can.
Alrighty, I'm still trying to find my channel. All right, here we go. The quality still says 720p, which is maddeningly frustrating, and I don't know why that's not fixed yet. But that does mean you're going to have to be probably even a little bit bigger than you are right now. Um,
Let's see. That works better.
yeah, let's go ahead and just go with this, and then we'll let people correct us as they join. I've noticed people tend to trickle in like over, pretty slowly. Like I think there's only a couple people here right now. So if anybody has problems with the live stream or with the code, visibility or something, we can always try to make it bigger. I feel bad because my Twitch might actually have a higher resolution for those watching. Let me see what they've got. But my YouTube thing is not fixed. It's like people troll me about this now. Like my YouTube quality is still for some reason not 1080p. Oh, interesting. It says my Twitch shows me as offline, but we should not be. Let me see what's going on here. Hmm. I think there's something wrong with Twitch. Let me see if I can turn that off and then turn it back on. Maybe it'll create a new stream. Shouldn't really be. We're probably not going to waste a lot of time on figuring out why Twitch thinks I'm offline. Um, because yeah, I mean we've got stuff to do. We're very busy people. So if there's anybody in Twitch chat, let me know if you can see me because I can't see me through uh, through Twitch for whatever reason. It shows as offline, even though it also shows as live, which you know makes no sense. Um, Oh, you know what? Okay, okay. I see what the problem is. It's my bit rate. Let me fix that and then we'll be good. Output 6,000. Let's do 5,500. I think if I fix my bit rate that it'll figure me out and put me on screen properly. And I will toggle that source on and off again. Okay. Whether or not that works, we're just going to move on. If we miss Twitch, it doesn't really matter. It'll be recorded and be on YouTube and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay. So you've already run the mixed task generator, it looks like.
Yeah, so I was exploring the Igniter documentation, and just to be clear, that's my very first time using Igniter. So I'm a new user here. Um, but yeah, so we do have these tasks that we can install,
Mm-hmm.
which is a regular mix task that we use to install Beacon, and also so we install the libraries, we do the configuration, and we also bootstrap a new site, all in just one task, which is kind of, I'm not gonna say a problem, but would be better to have two tasks here actually, one to install Beacon and another one to generate a new site for you, which I think it works fine with Igniter, because I mean we can compose tasks, right? Um, so maybe we can have two tasks instead of just one here, because the idea is, okay, you can install Beacon and then you can get started with Beacon, but eventually you should be able to generate a new site in the same application, right? Because you can have multiple sites in the same application. But we don't have this task now because it's not very straightforward to manipulate the files using regex. So that's the
Mm-hmm.
main reason we didn't have this task before. But now with Igniter, I believe that's going to be um, you know very doable. So yeah, that's the situation we have now. We have one task to install Beacon and generate a new site, but we cannot generate new sites
Mm-hmm.
with this task. And would be nice to have a task to install Beacon and another task to generate new sites.
Yeah, so that makes perfect sense to me. And I think the yeah, basically what you do is we'd have a one task, beacon dot install, and another task. The general pattern is like library name dot gen dot whatever. So beacon dot gen dot site or something like that would then be the follow up task, and the installer can do things like check if there are if they're like if it's the first time you're installing or there's no sites right now, then you could automatically make one, or you could like prompt like, hey, okay, you've just installed Beacon, do you want to create a site, and ask for input. We could do all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think for now what we would do is just we can start with just beacon.install and
Hmm.
have leave out any of the site specific stuff. Like we can, but we'll the real it'll show up, or the right way to do it will kind of make sense as we go into, like, if you want to do it with arguments for site on install, or if you want to make it interactive, that sort of thing. So yeah, the first thing I guess is like what does your current installer do, and what does the getting started guide do, because we want to automate that whole thing. So like, what's the first step when you've got a new project? Um,
Yeah, so maybe I can share my whole screen. I
okay,
think it's gonna be easier to navigate the documentation and my terminal.
okay.
Let's see if I can change it. Um, all right.
Yep. Cool.
Make
And
it.
I was going to say something. Uh, what we can also do if you want to create we can create a new Mix project or a new Phoenix project, and then you can point that Phoenix project at your local Beacon installation. That way we can actually like test the installer on a real project as well. So that's usually like the loop that I go through when I'm like just trying things
Hmm.
out to start.
Yeah. So you mean uh, we create a fresh, clean Phoenix project, and then we go from there.
Yeah, exactly. And so what
Okay.
you want to do is if you to do this with Igniter, if you want to do mix, actually, let me send this to you in chat. Mix archive. Oops. Where would I send this to you in this chat? I could send it to you. I'll just tell you what to type. Um, so you're gonna do mix archive.install hex and then igniter underscore new. Perfect. So that'll give you mix igniter.new. So now you can say mix igniter.new. You'll do an app name, and then you'll say perfect dash dash with phoenix.new.
It's the
And
new.
then yeah, so just that we can get started with. That'll be perfect for now. Um,
Okay.
so that all that really did for you is that was like if you don't actually use the install flag when you create a new project, all that does for you is and make sure that Igniter is installed when you install the project, right? So it's really a small convenience. Um, but so then what we'll be able to do, and this is I think kind of a cool uh, process, is once this is done, Igniter actually has a couple like small performance things that need to be addressed. It's a little bit slow in certain cases, but it's just some elbow grease that needs to be applied. Okay, so in here, what you can do is you can from the CLI you can say mix igniter.install, and you'll say
So
yep, and then you'll say beacon at and then path.
and
Oh, go ahead.
like this path.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Path colon and then like dot dot slash beacon or wherever beacon is relative to this this project.
Uh,
Colon.
s- so yeah. So it is the relative path, or it can be
It
the
can be
absolute.
relative or absolute. It should be either one should be fine. But relative is typically what you want. So like dot dot slash beacon or something.
Uh, so it's no. Sorry. Can you send me the?
Yeah, yeah. Let me be like beacon at path colon dot dot
Because it's
slash
gonna
beacon.
be.
I sent it to you in Slack. I guess I don't. Maybe you don't want to have to pull that up. Maybe I'll send it to you in the. We have this.
Uh,
We have this. Where is this chat that we have? This streaming magical thing that we're using
okay.
for guests.
Gotcha. So
Yeah, that
so path is.
it can be absolute or relative. It shouldn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's cool. So you can hit Y to install.
Okay. Yeah. The this diff is really uh, this diff is really interesting. Like it's really cool for for users.
Mm. Oh, this is an interesting one. So we already have
Yeah.
kind of an interesting problem, like because you have to update the dependency.
Yeah. Exactly. Because we use
Mm.
Flock at runtime, so Phoenix use only for dev environments, but uh, we are using it. We are using Flock
Yeah.
at runtime. So there's a difference here from fresh Phoenix installations.
Yeah, so what's interesting, I didn't really think about this. This is something we'll have to figure out. Like I might even just make an exception for Beacon. Like but the main thing here is in order to run the installer, we have to fetch the dependency and
Yeah.
compile it, and Mix doesn't like that. So okay, I'm gonna make a note about this because what we may want to do is some kind of sidestep of this where like if dependencies diverge, then we show you here's the error message that you got about divergent dependencies, go fix that and then continue, and then we can try again or something. Because right now if you tried to use igniter.install beacon on a fresh Phoenix project, it would just fail every time until they fix the
Mm-hmm.
dependencies. So let me look and see how I can figure that out. So
Mm-hmm.
but for now we'll just sidestep that. We'll like remove the only test, and I'll figure that out, some thing we can do there.
And can I execute this again, or maybe the question is if I run this comment again, it's gonna, let's see if, okay, so I have the beacon here. So if I run this again, it's gonna find that I already have the beacon on my list of dependencies and just execute again.
Yep. Yeah, it so yeah, if you do it like this, like yeah, we have to make steps get, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Gotcha. Oh, gotcha. So yeah, it does expect that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't
you gotta run make
expect the
steps dot
yeah.
get to get those. But then yeah, you'll see it. It's just gonna say no changes.
Yeah, that's interesting because there's another library that I have, the MDX, and this one I'm gonna have the same problem. I don't have this problem yet, but I'm gonna use Flock as
Okay.
well. So I'm I'm gonna have the same. I would have the same issue here. So would be nice to
There's
have like a
there is a
way
way we can do
to.
this. What we can do is have something in the like the mix.x's file that like instructs us what to do, and then we can read that before of any dependency that we install before uh before running the uh yeah, we'll be able to do it. We'll be able to do it. It's just a little weird,
Mhm.
but I'll
So
have a
I'll
solution. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll wait that I can instruct Igniter to apply the patch. Like, hey, for this install, I need these changes.
Mhm. Yeah, it'll be like a pre-install hook in your mix.x's file, I think, that has
Mm-hmm.
it'll be very limited, right? Like it can only like it you can't assume that the rest of you can't assume that your package is compiled. So the pre-install hook
Mm-hmm.
has to only use code from Igniter, not like your package, like that sort of thing. So it'll be limited, but I think that we should be able to make that actually work as like a general thing that you should only use just for like stuff like this that you have to do up front before you can even install the package. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense.
um okay, so oh, you probably have your other beacon.install task around still, don't you?
Yeah, it's still here. This one.
Okay, let's like rename that to like install to or something. That way it knows what our installer is. And I think you have to change the module name as well. Okay. So now if you were to go and run your installer, it should just tell you like not implemented or something. Oh, had no associated installer task. Okay. Um, so let's make sure that your new installer is properly named and in the right file path and stuff, because maybe that's
Yeah. Does Igniter has like a generator so I can bootstrap a new task? or do I have to create
Yeah,
manually?
you can do mix.igniter.gen.task.
So mix igniter
Mm-hmm.
gen what?
Gen.task. And then you can say like beacon.install. So this will.
Or I have to
Oh yeah, you
install
have to
igniter
add
first.
ignite.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
and I can have it only for dev environment, or does it have to be?
It depends. So you can't have it only. Well, you can't have it only for dev. You would make it an optional dependency, if you want. But then what will happen is I can actually just show you. Go ahead and add igniter as a dependency that says like optional true. Um, and now, so what you can do now is to try this. Do your igniter.gen.task command, and then add. Well, cancel that real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, igniter would have produced invalid syntax. That's a new one. Um, okay. Well, it's valid or duplicate. Oh, you. I think maybe because you have it. Do you already have a beacon.install?
Not anymore. I renamed to
Oh, okay,
install
okay.
old the
Right.
file and the module. So
Okay, then I don't know what was going on there. I've never seen that before. Well, I have seen that before, but not when using this generator. So try passing the dash dash optional flag.
on this generator,
Yep. Hmm. That works for me for some reason. Like when I say mix igniter.gen.task beacon.install. So something strange is definitely going on. Uh, why that doesn't work for you. Build if.
yeah, I mean I can try removing this file if that helps.
I don't think that shouldn't matter. Yeah, I mean, it's we should probably print out um like what the invalid syntax is that we were doing. Here's what I'll do for now. I can just send you the like when I run the generator, um what the what it printed out for me, so that way you can just copy that. But
Hmm.
yeah, I've not seen that before. Um, there you go. So that's I sent it to you in Slack. That's the output of the generator.
Okay.
That's with passing the dash dash optional flag. Okay. So this is the sort of UX of dash dash optional, right? Is if you look here, there's this if code dot ensure loaded igniter block here. Um, so if you go look at the else branch of that, you'll see what we do if igniter is not installed. There should, yeah, right here. So you can make it optional, but if you like, what's going to happen for the user is they're going to say, oh, when they try to run your install, it's going to say, hey, you have to add igniter, right?
Mm.
And so basically it's up to you. What's more important on that front is like, do you want igniter to be an optional dependency, or do you, it's not like, I think it's safe to have as just a regular dependency. Um, and uh, then you don't need to do the whole like the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean it's fine to have it. I was just curious,
Hmm.
to learn how it works. But for Beacon, it's fine to have it.
Okay.
It's really
So
not a problem.
I'll send you the text of doing it with, because for some reason that generator is not working for you. Maybe it's like an Elixir version thing. What Elixir version are you on?
117.
Oh, yeah, that should be fine. Huh. Yeah, why would it be any different for you? It doesn't make any sense. Um, oh well. Well, we can start here. Cool. So, with this, it's like, there's a bunch of stuff we can customize, like the examples and the docs and stuff like that. But for now,
Hmm.
what we would do, if you try and run that task from your example project, you should see like something like, no suggested changes or something. Okay. Yeah. You see a warning because it's not yet implemented. So if you look in your
Hmm.
task, that's where that's what our task currently does in the Igniter. It just says igniter.add warning, you know,
Okay.
not implemented yet. Okay, cool. So what's the first thing that a user does when they go to set up Igniter or Beacon? Sorry.
Uh, yeah. So there are a couple of things here. So if you're going to split up the tasks, one for installing Beacon and another one to generate a site, then one can call the other. So for the installation, first, let's see. So there are a couple of things we need to do. We need to inject some code into the endpoint, and we need to inject the formatter as well.
Hmm.
And well, let's see the documentation because the documentation has the whole list. It's easier to.
Okay.
So essentially, so essentially that those are the steps for the installation.
Okay.
Uh, New Phoenix, and then we install change the flock uh,
Yep.
we change the flock dependence, and then we install Beacon and Beacon Live admin, and that's something we can split up as well because most of the times you wanna have one application with Beacon and Beacon Live admin, but Beacon Live admin is a separate project. You
Hmm.
can have another Phoenix application just running the admin interface, and that's for security reasons. For example, you can have the live admin running behind a VPN, for example,
Okay.
right? So it's up to you. You can have admin or not, but most of the times, especially for simple sites, you're gonna have both. But if we have admin install in another project, we can just say, hey, so um, it's up to the user.
Okay.
Uh,
So
so so
yeah,
it,
let's just do Beacon for now, and then we can
yeah,
because it all composes. So you can even decide later that it just by default will do live admin, and then it should be fine because uh it'll have like you can just run them together, and so it won't even really matter. Like so, breaking it up into small tasks now is best. Um,
yeah,
so the
yeah,
only thing
and
to do then is for now from this list I'm looking at is to add it to your .format or .exs. Um,
yeah, yes, yeah,
okay.
because the site's gonna be another. I think it's gonna be another sorry another task. We have to create some data, but this one is when you are generate a new site. So the beacon installation is really simple. We don't change too much on your code. So essentially just the dependencies and the formatter.
Okay. Somebody just told me that they couldn't see you, and I hadn't properly transitioned from the screen to this, but I really hope that that wasn't the case for like the whole time we were doing this. Like I feel like let me let me see. Were you just looking at my face this whole? No. Okay. Okay. It's something happened a few minutes. Something happened like 5 minutes ago for some reason, which sucks because that's like
But you can see my screen, but not my
okay.
camera.
We should be good now they can see what it's supposed to be, and so for the last few minutes
Okay.
people have just been hearing us talk but not what we're looking at, which is annoying because this is the fun part anyway. Sorry about that. It was 8 minutes.
but
Oh my gosh.
they could see my screen or
They couldn't. No, they could
or
only see me, my big camera, just my face while we were
oh
talking.
gosh.
All right, sorry
Okay.
everybody. I might be able to fix it in post potentially if I have the recording or something. I don't know. We'll see. But um,
Yeah. Okay. So just to refresh, now you can see my screen, right?
yep,
Okay. So just to refresh, what Beacon install does, essentially, we just need to make sure that Phoenix is updated. And then we need to change the flock dependencies because in Phoenix it runs only for tests, but we use that for Beacon, so we need to change this. And for the Beacon and Beacon uh, Live Admin is optional. It's gonna be another task in another project. And essentially, we all we need to do here is add the formatter, the Beacon project in the formatter configuration. So that's it.
perfect. Okay, so in your task, there's a built-in helper just for exactly that. So in the installer, and we're just doing Beacon for now. So we just need to do the one.
Mhm.
So you can pipe into Igniter dot project dot depths no dot formatter dot import dep, and then you just put in Beacon. Yep, that's the whole thing.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Okay, so let's.
Cool.
Yeah, this view is really it's awesome. It really helps.
Very cool. Um,
Just a
yeah,
question here. Is the yes the default, or do I have to
you
every
do have to
time?
type Y because we're making like changes to the file system. So you can even try if you just hit enter without Y, it's gonna say it's
No,
gonna like require. So there is however a dash dash yes command that answers yes to all prompts. So like if you
okay.
wanted to give people like just a one click uh, install, or you wanted to you could pass dash dash yes. Um,
Yeah.
but okay, yeah. So I guess that's the whole thing for beacon.install pretty much, right?
Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, because we're gonna fix the flock issue with the pre-install hook. So yeah,
Okay.
that's that's pretty. And then eventually, when we have the live admin install, I mean,
Yep.
we can ask the user if he wants to install Beacon Live Admin, but for now, we don't have that. So for now, I think that's it.
Okay. So should we go on to the site setup then, like the
Yeah,
beacon.gen.site?
yeah, that would be the next one. Yes.
Okay. So for some reason can we double check, is your Igniter on the latest version of Igniter? Like, cause I don't know why that the task generator isn't working for you, cause it worked for me.
It's next. I don't remember.
Mixed hex dot
Let's see.
outdated, I think, right? Okay, let me see. The Yeah, that is the latest. So that's such a strange thing that you're. Oh, okay. Well,
We can we can try generate. We can try with the next one, like the
yeah,
Gen side.
yeah. Let's see.
Let's see if that works.
Yeah, so you get the same thing. It
Uh,
says invalid or duplicate keys for if only do and an optional else are supported in config. Oh,
and but I'm assuming this is the Igniter config file
I don't I don't think so. I think this
because
is
because I
um what's in your config file? Config slash
because
config.
I don't have that line here.
I think this might actually be part of it. Can you it's yeah, this okay, interesting.
Yeah, that's the
um
whole file.
can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
I could have sworn I fixed this exact problem. Let me see if I can find this import config. I see what's going on. Ensure config evaluates. One second. Move to function call. There's a we do this stuff in to like we have to evaluate your config file. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and what we do is we remove every okay, how interesting of a problem. We can't okay. So we can fix this for you. This is something for me to fix, but change that line 26 instead of the keyword if do, make it like if do block. Yeah. And like that's gonna work.
Oh, God, so it does not.
Yeah, so what we do, we have to evaluate your config file to know what your formatter options are,
Oh,
and we remove any call to import config from your config file. But by removing it, you had like a do colon like nothing, like an empty block. And so yeah, so I'm gonna fix this right now. I'm gonna replace or I can't fix it now, but I'm gonna make a note. What I need to do is I need to replace with nil instead of removing the 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 code. So okay, cool. So now your generator works. That's great.
yeah, yeah. It's a small bug. No,
Yep.
no big deal. All right.
Cool.
So okay, so now it generates the preview for me, and I can just accept it. All right,
Mhm.
that's nice. And
Alrighty.
there you go.
So, uh, yeah. So for making a site, this is the one that it seems like it's got all the interesting stuff in it, right?
Let me use the same pattern here for the file name. I think the I cannot increase. I don't know how to increase the font size for the on the
Yeah.
sidebar, so it's hard to see. But essentially, here I just renaming the file, so you keep the same standard. So it's beacon.gen.site and beacon.install. So
Cool.
that's it. All right. So okay, this one is gonna be a bit more, few more steps. So okay, so moving on to the site installation. So now, so essentially here we have a few, yeah, so we have a few steps. First, we need to generate a new migration, and then we need to add a new plug in the browser pipeline, and then we need to add the beacon router and a new scope, and the user can choose the scope. Like it could be any scope and any path. Um, and yeah, and that's it. Essentially, the rest is just the example.
Cool.
And the example, mm, maybe, yeah, the maybe we can use Igniter to generate the example, but for now, just just
Mhm.
generate the site would be nice.
We do actually have a sort of a convention. Like part of what we're trying to do with Igniter is to have like a little bit more of a conventional interface for these things. And so, for example, in Ash, when you use mix igniter.install Ash, you can pass in dash dash example and it will give you some
Mhm.
examples. But if you don't pass that in, you get no examples. And so, like, I'm hoping to kind of push that on where it's like, people get used to, I can pass in dash dash example. So, we can do that same sort of thing for yours. Okay.
Yeah.
So, for now, this is actually interesting. I don't know if we have a solution for migrations. We're gonna have to figure this out, or
Okay.
I'll show you some stuff. But for now, let's just start there. Um,
Okay.
and I'll show you what the problem is before I show you how I think we can solve it. What you'll use, so copy that text of that module, like that def module, um, and then you're going to go to you'll say on your igniter, it'll be igniter dot project dot module dot create module. Yep. So then you'll give it the module name, which is that igniter, or which is that mixed task name. Yep.
Okay. So can I fetch? So first, can I get the app name here?
Yep. Yeah. So before this, like on line like 3 up from here, you can say, um, you can say like migration name equals, and then there's a igniter dot project dot module dot module name or something, like to give you a module name in the scope of their project. So igniter dot project dot module dot, I think just module name. Module
Module
name.
name.
Yep. So then you would just pass in repo dot migrations dot create beacon tables. Yep.
So say that again, please. So I pass the
Yeah, like the suffix in, and then it does the rest. Yeah.
like that.
Yep. So then you can use that name in instead of the, yep. Okay. And then, so actually run this and you'll see that there's a problem, just to show you kind of like how this works. So we prefer for people to ask to create modules instead of creating files, because Igniter puts modules like in the appropriate place in the project. But if you run this, you'll see that it's going to put it in a place you don't actually want it.
And I can keep the content just empty for now.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. So now what is the command to
Oh,
generate the
now that you have the dependency, you can just say, like, that's already in this example project. You can just say mix beacon.gen.site.
oh gosh.
So you see where I tried to put the module though,
Yeah, it just
right?
follows the module name.
Exactly. So what we can do what we can do as a temporary thing. So we actually have this concept of extensions to Igniter that knows where the conventional place for certain types of modules are. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but we won't be able to use that, or there isn't an ecto one that knows that migrations belong in priv or anything like that. Um, but I think that if you run, if you, when you go to the when you go to create the module, you can pass in a path. I'm pretty sure. .pm slash yeah, location.
Yeah, let me open the uh, Igniter docs.
Okay, so yeah, we actually, that's frustrating. We actually don't have a path for this, but if you try passing in, so it wants you to pass in a location type, and this is, again, it's like trying to be smart for you, you know. So what that would be is make
Mm-hmm.
it be a tuple. So the first one would be source folder, like the Atom source folder, and then just try passing priv. Yeah, let's just see if that works. Yeah. Wait, is that the right place for
Yeah,
it
it
actually?
not really because it added the
Yeah,
my app because the first
right,
it just adds the prefix
right.
for me.
So what would be nice also, like this is the world we want eventually, is that there's like a function in Ecto that you can call that's called, like, to generate a migration like this. But for now, you will actually have to use create file instead of um, create module. So to be igniter dot, I think it's just igniter dot um, igniter dot create new Elixir file, I think.
Ignite dot
Yeah,
with
just
the
igniter
module.
dot, like it's the top level module. Um, so I think it's create create new Elixir file. Excuse me, new Elixir file. Yep, and then you can put in the path that you want to the file.
Pull migrations. Um, yeah. So
That's kind of weird, isn't it?
yeah, this is interesting because I don't because
Yeah.
That would be, or maybe is there a way to, or maybe I can I can call the generate migration task
Yeah.
here and then change the content of the file that was generated. Is
So
that possible?
it is possible. The problem is what we want to do, what we want to provide for users, right, is that they see a diff of all of the changes that are going to happen before anything
Mm,
happens. So what you could do, right? Here's what I would suggest doing for now is add, instead of create new Elixir file, do use igniter.add task. And then the first argument will be mixecto.gen.migration. Yeah, and you don't, that only doesn't, yeah. And then what you'll do is you'll say igniter.add notice.
notice.
Yep. And then in here, just for now, just replace it, put in some text. It's going to say like modify your migration file. And you can make
Yeah.
that better later. But so we can generate the task for them. And then it's going to print out a thing that says like, hey, don't forget to go modify the migration file. So this is an example of like, if you can't make something work with the regular generation patterns, there's like tools to make that nicer. Yeah, so you can see it's going to say, hey, we're going to run this task. So then you can say yes.
Yeah.
And then, oh, what is it?
So I,
Oh yeah, get rid of the mix. It's just the task name. Yeah, it's expecting them to all be mixed tasks.
okay.
Cool. Hey Barnabas, how's it going? Um, yeah. So, oh, that's interesting. Is it just sitting there hanging on task input?
Yeah, seems like
It's
it's stuck here for some reason.
Yeah, this is like a weird thing with I think yeah, okay. I'll fix that. Is there an option to mix gen migration to like not, you'll have to exit mix help ecto.
Let's.
But what I'll have to do is probably fix something. There's like a thing that you can do when you run a task to like pass through IO, but Barnabas, of course, you got to bring up the 720p issue. Yes, I haven't figured it out. I've been trying and I don't know what the problem is. I'm like a tech whiz kid and I still don't know how to make my source not be 720p. So sorry. um,
Yeah, I don't think there's a way to disable this question.
Damn.
I think it's just default.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm surprised we're getting hung up on this, but so what I need to do is fix our logic. Okay, so it is still hard to read, Barnabas. Maybe we need to zoom in even more because my stream looks like a potato. I don't know how to fix this. I've tried like so many different things and I don't know why. I feel like it's like YouTube is like stopping me from doing something because like I've followed like 20 tutorials on how to do streams. Okay, so you'll just have to exit out of that with Control C. Um, so our last option then is we're probably just going to need to make up that timestamp ourselves and
Mm-hmm.
make the module. Um, so let me ectogen migration. Let me just see what they do for the timestamp, and then we're just going to copy that. So let's see.
Timestamp. There you go.
Yeah, I'm probably going to add like a helper in Igniter core. Like we have some Phoenix helpers, so we'll add one for Ecto as well, just for these like really common things that people need to do.
I just keep this one for reference.
So yeah, we'll use that create.
It's
You can do the
need.
igniter dot. Oh yeah, right. You need to do the Elixir file so that it puts it in the right path.
So it's gonna be priv repo migrations. Oh, sorry. Migrations, then the migration timestamp, and create beacon tables.
Yep, and then you'll put in the contents of the file.
So that's gonna be, where's that? Oh, here. And I have the migration name. Let's say module name, just to be clear. Right.
Okay. Now let's see if this works. What I'm hoping is I think that there's logic in Igniter. Like we have this thing where we like move files where they belong, and I'm thinking it should ignore things that aren't in our pad. Yep. It's a built-in function in that.
Yeah. Okay, so preview for migrations, timestamp, and the content. Okay.
Oh, you mean inspect
yeah.
the module? Use inspect to get rid of that. Perfect.
Okay, yeah, now it looks
Perfect.
query beacon tables. Yeah, looks good.
Alrighty. So what's next?
Perfect. Maybe at the end here we should add because we need to run this migration eventually, so maybe at the end we should have a warning or something.
Yeah, you can add there's warnings and notices. I would say this is probably a notice. Yeah, you just say like don't forget to run the migration or something like that, or
Yeah.
and you could even also just add the task mix.echo.migrate, but probably not because it's like you don't want to change somebody's database.
Yeah,
Automatically.
just leave it here just for just as a reminder.
Yeah.
But eventually, when we get the migration, so we don't need to create the file, and so it's gonna be well. Anyway, so the next step that would be okay. So we need so now the router. So we have to change the router and the application file.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's go with the router first. So essentially we need to add a new not this plug, forget about this plug, because this plug is about the admins, another repo. So we just need the beacon router,
Okay,
and a new scope.
Okay. So let's start with the easier one. The scope is going to be the easy one actually, because I don't think we have just a built-in tool to say make one module use another thing, but there is a thing called igniter dot libs dot phoenix dot add scope. And so for now you can just call it slash and then put in the contents of whatever should go in there, like
the second parent. Oh, okay, so that's the content.
So yeah, that second argument is going to be like the body of the function. So pipe through browser and beacon site.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the arguments here, because the essentially ideally the user should be able to like just say, hey, like the name of the site
Mm-hmm.
and the path,
Right.
and pass something like.
Yep. So we can, yeah, you can make those positions. We'll hard code it for now, just to make sure it's working, um, and then I'll show you how to do that with the arguments. So yeah, let's just make sure that that works, and then there should be another. You scroll
It's
up.
ask.
It's just I think
Well,
you just have to
it's
scroll up to see it. Yeah.
yeah, but it's asking to create this file again. It
Oh,
was it was
because
created before.
yeah, because the timestamp changed. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
even if the timestamp hadn't changed, I think you'd get an error. So what you need to okay, here's what we need to do. If we go back into the installer, make like a new function called like create migration. Um, and that'll take an igniter as the first argument. And then what you'll do is you'll say there's a function called igniter.project.module.module exists, I think, or project.module.exists. And actually, I feel really bad about this. It ends in a question mark, but it doesn't return a boolean, which is a mistake on my part. But
Its module
I think it's
exists.
just exists actually. Oh no, I guess it is. Yeah, module. Yeah, dot module
Yeah,
exists.
there
That one's
one
deprecated.
for.
Yeah, use the project. Well,
Oh, gotcha.
it's soft deprecated. I'm gonna deprecate it soon.
Okay.
So what's important though is this doesn't module exist does not return a boolean. It
Mm-hmm.
returns it returns a tuple where the first thing is an igniter, or the first thing is a boolean, and the second thing is the igniter. That's because it's like sometimes when we search things, we like might cache some things. Um, so
Okay,
yeah,
and
you can
here I'm
just
gonna.
pass I would just pass that into create migration, like create migration igniter migration name or something like that. So you can add a second argument.
Yeah, I mean, like
Oh,
um,
yeah, no,
uh,
you're right. You can put it in the function.
yeah, I mean, it's gonna be. I'm gonna call this create migration here before.
Yeah.
I'm just asking how I'm gonna use this create migration function.
You're gonna replace it with like that igniter. You're gonna put that igniter.create new Elixir file that's gonna go inside of the igniter, and you're just gonna do it if exists, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so just to make it easier, let's
Mm-hmm.
so we, and
Yeah.
so we have everything like.
So you can just take that whole thing. We're gonna put that inside of that function we made, the new one to create the migration. Um, so the first thing you need to do, yeah,
So it's gonna be called inside the create new Elixir file. So if the module exists, we do nothing.
yeah, exactly. So you'll move that into that function. So first things first, when you do that module exists, you need to assign it the result to like um,
You
it'd
said
be
it's a tuple. You said, right?
yeah, exactly. And I think it's like not even properly documented, which sucks. um,
Okay.
like it doesn't say what it
Yeah.
returns. Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah.
Um, I'll fix that. But so you'd say like exists is like the first element is whether or not it exists, so true or false, and the second element is igniter. Yep. So then you can basically just exactly, yeah, and then like that create new Elixir file function.
And okay. Um, I'm gonna.
Yeah. And then otherwise, you'll just return the igniter unchanged.
Okay. So, okay, so it's a pipeline. So igniter is always is the token.
Yep, exactly.
And here, create migration.
Yep. Okay, so now it should not prompt you. Yeah, exactly. Nice.
And this one I need to pass the igniter here.
Yes.
Okay, create migration. Let's see. Model exists. Okay, so the only, yeah, that could be, yeah, it doesn't need to be a function, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So now if you run it again, yeah, you should not get that.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah, perfect.
nice. Okay. So the next thing is to make the module the, let me see, router. I want to see if I lib/phoenix.
There's a complication here,
Okay.
which is probably, I mean, it's not very usual, but the problem is we had some users with this problem.
Mm-hmm.
The order of the routes are important here.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, where's the, let me open the router here. So, as you know, Phoenix creates this scope for you.
Mm-hmm.
And we had some users that was creating the beacon scope after this one, which does not work because it's the same scope. But here on the igniter, I see it creates, where's that? It creates before, so that's good. But um, but the problem is, as we add new sites, generate new sites,
Mm-hmm.
we need to, like, the user, because the thing is, we have this macro beacon site, and you can
Mm-hmm.
call this macro inside any scope. So the
Mm-hmm.
user can tell, hey, I have, let's say scope blog, or let's say something else like marketing, and then I can have beacon site A, beacon site B, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we need to find, I don't know if Igniter is able to
You
do
can,
that, but
yeah.
we,
So what you can do is instead of add scope, you can use append to scope, and that will find a scope matching a given path, and it will put it in that scope. So if you go back to your task, and then instead of uh, add scope, use append to scope. And then also you're going to pass an option though. This is very important. So remove the pipe through browser, um, and then add an option at the end called with pipelines. And then that'll be a list. You can say the Atom browser. So it's like you want to go find a. So this will make the scope if it doesn't exist, or it will find a scope at slash that has the browser pipeline in it, and we'll add it to
mm,
that scope. So again, it can't be like perfect. Like it's possible that the user would in their routers have done something like that we can't imagine. But we can try to make it like as seamless as possible. And I feel like this is a decent middle ground. So now if you were to run this again, you should see that it just alters their existing scope.
mm,
Okay, but it didn't do that.
let me,
Okay. Here's why. Because oh, this is annoying. It's that second argument that's causing the problem. Where's that?
where I, Okay, let's try again.
Add file
Syntax
type.
error before.
In the router, it's having a problem, I think, for some reason. Is there like equals somewhere in your router? Oh,
Yeah, that's because Elixir LS.
wait, what?
Yeah, sometimes it adds the
It added it back
LSCP
in.
adds. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Oh gosh.
What do you
Yeah, it,
what do you
it
mean?
happens sometimes. See,
What the
I don't know
heck?
why it just happened. I mean, to be honest, it was a long time I saw this problem. So, but it's happening again. So let's try
Maybe
to.
do you have like a updated yeah, okay. I've never seen that one. That was crazy, dude. That was
Yeah, I mean,
okay. No, it's still
oh
doing it.
yeah.
What could
Oh
possibly be
gosh.
happening there?
Um.
Uh what on earth?
Oh gosh.
I think you can save without formatting,
Let's.
right? Or is that a thing? Like if you do like your
Um.
command palette might have like a save without formatting. Because it seems like it's the formatter that's adding it, right?
Uh. Z has alt formatter. Let's see. But I think
Oh,
it's off.
I think that might be yeah, okay. I think that's actually not Elixir LS that's doing that. I think that's your auto formatter that's doing that. Because it's yeah, that's your auto formatter. So if you go back and you put in just format on save on, and then I think then Elixir and let Elixir LS do your formatting, then it'll work.
Yeah, we can take it. We can
Okay,
leave
but
the format off for now. But yeah.
okay. Um okay, so it's adding another scope, and the reason for that is and this is something we can maybe just solve kind of later, but the reason is that the second argument, their scope has that my app web in the second argument,
Mm-hmm.
and that would affect the contents of like if you had like a controller in the scope that you were adding, it would be like scoped by that. But we can support that for now, just because we want to handle like there's an option you can pass called arg2 that is like what should the second argument be, and you can do that. So in append to scope, you would pass the arg2 option, and that would be uh, the web module.
Yeah, just um. But I think for Beacon, for for Beacon we need a scope without the
Oh,
namespace.
okay, perfect. Then this is going to do what
So
you want.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's the
So
expected result
if
for
you
us.
go just to show you how like that it'll work, if you go into the router and you like in your actual router in the project that we're testing against, I mean, and you add like a scope, you can that doesn't have that, like or just remove my app web, yeah, exactly,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Then you'll be able to see like it's gonna actually in this case it's gonna generate it new again. Wait, what?
Oh, because I don't have the pipe.
Yeah, but it's weird that it shows scope slash as new, but we didn't add that. Maybe it's because like you.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's fine. Let's just run it again. I think
yeah,
that was just a weird
it's
thing.
a bit. Yeah, it's kind of mixing.
Okay, perfect. So
Yeah,
it does behave with existing scopes as long as they meet the rules.
yeah, it needs to match.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so so that works. So the last thing that we need to do though is we need to make the router um, use that other module. Or well, no, wait. Do you want to do arguments first so that they can customize the path, or do you want to do the beacon.router?
Um, it's up to you.
Um, let's do. Let me double check something.
Just
Okay.
just a sec. My AirPods battery is dying.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you say something so I can?
Testing.
Yeah. Okay. I'm
Okay.
just switching the speakers.
Okay. So, oh wait, yeah. Are we good to go, or can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a bit
Um,
lower now, but I can. We can go.
okay. So what we can do now is let's do the arguments so that you can see how to like parameterize this. So do you want them to be flags or do you want them to be positional arguments?
I think flags are better.
Okay.
It's
So
name it. So
right, exactly. So in your info, up at the top, there's like a info callback. So you can pass a schema on line 26 there, and that's an option parser schema. So you would say like, whatever you're like, schema, it's a keyword list. So like schema string, or not schema, but like path string or something like that.
something like this.
No, it'll be like a keyword list where the key is the option name and the value is the type, like you do in option parser. I mean,
So it's like path and
it'll just be the Atom string. If you look at the option parser docs, you'll see what I mean for Elixir.
let me open here.
So to be like that keyword list there where it says like debug Boolean, it's going to look like that.
Okay.
The third argument there, I mean. So you can just make that a keyword list if you want. Yeah.
And that I pass a type here.
Exactly.
Or
Yep. So that's right. And then you can also add an alias if you want. So that would be like p colon path if you wanted to make it so they could have like a short name for the flag.
just a second. Let me try to change the speaker again because it's kind of
Too quiet.
yeah, too low now. Let's see. Hmm. Okay, say something, please.
Testing.
Yeah, it's better now.
Okay.
Okay,
Cool. Yeah, you turn it down a little bit, which is good because that means because it was echoing, but now it's not echoing. So I think we're good.
it's okay. So
Yeah, we're good to go.
should be okay now.
Yep. Okay, so now you can add an alias if you want as well, which is like you would say like p colon path to like or like a keyword list in the next thing that alias is
But that will
option.
be a
No, it would
new.
be in the next in that CLI aliases section below.
Oh, okay.
Yep, and
And
then just the atom path. Yeah. So then they can say dash dash path or dash p.
okay, gotcha.
Cool. And uh, that's it for. So now that options variable that you see how we say like options equals options, right? In the like 7 or 8 lines down from where you are right now. So
Mhm.
that means now it'll parse the options out. And so then you can basically say something like, path equals options path, like it's a keyword list of all of the options values. So you can say like options path or the default path of slash or something like that.
But do I need to check if the option is present or
Yeah, because it doesn't set a default. So you'll have to do like, um, on line or on like one line down from you where it says options, like you could do like keyword dot put new to make sure that path is there, or you could, try to get path and then say like, path or an empty or just a slash or something like that. It's up to you.
got okay, got so it's up to me to you know so there is no, I mean, my question is there is no way to define like here in the schema or somewhere else default value.
No, but we should add a defaults. That's like pretty trivial for us where we can like, let me just do add defaults key in
Yeah,
options.
I mean, just asking to just to learn how Igniter works. I'm not
Yeah.
saying it has to do this, but just asking.
I think it would be nice. Yeah. But yeah, for now that'll be on you. So now you can use that. Uh, yep.
just for okay. So there are a couple of options here. Actually, the scope path, the path for the site path,
Hmm.
and the site name.
Yep.
So, but we can start with the. So maybe I maybe this one should be named site path because we also have the scope path. So maybe
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Like, you might have to kind of play around with the DX there because it's like you probably want the scope to be like really specific. Well, I don't know. Normally you want like more specific scopes, but I guess at the same time, yeah, I don't know. For now,
I mean, Beacon follows the same rules as Phoenix,
yeah.
so it's up to you. You know, you can have a site in any scope, um, but
I,
usually it's the scope. But
okay. In that case, then I would just say like leave it as a root scope. So like make the scope path just be slash and then put their path into beacon site. Like the first
yeah,
argument in beacon site.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Let's keep it simple for now. But yeah, I get it.
so you can just what I would do is right now we're building up just a string, so you'll just want to use inspect site so that you get the double quotes, um,
Yeah,
or inspect path or whatever.
Let- mm, just to make it like
Yeah.
really like really simple here. Just use variables here.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay. Cool. So
okay.
now we can try running your command with the dash dash path option.
Yeah. Let's see.
Cool.
Yeah, let's try with the default value.
Right. Looks
Yeah.
good. Um, all right. So the last bit for this installer, if I recall correctly now, is the making the router use uh something.
For the router,
Okay.
yes. I can
So
add a new. I can add for the site later, but yeah, that would be the last one.
okay, so that's going to be a slightly more manual. And there's actually two changes that we're going to make that we need to make now. So the first is because we're going to be stacking up two changes to the router. Um, there's the way that modifying routers work in Igniter, like because a Phoenix project can have many routers,
Mhm.
and so it's not, you can't necessarily just say go update the router. So what happens is when you call one of these functions, it's going to, if there's multiple routers, it's going to prompt the user, which router would you like to modify? Um, but you don't want to prompt them twice. Like, because we're about to make another change to update the router, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to add an explicit step to select the router. Like kind of at the top where you're assigning your variables, you would say router equals, um, and then there's a function in igniter.libs.phoenix called select router. Yep. And then you can provide a message like which router would you like to install your beacon site into or something like that. Or you can just use the default. But keep in mind, this
Mhm.
returns it's a tuple. The first element is the igniter, and the second element is router. Yep. Okay, so now it's actually not going to do anything in your case because there's only one router. So there's no need to ask them which router they want to modify.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah,
But if there are more routers, then it will ask. So now what you need to do is you need to pass the router option to append to scope so that it knows that they've already selected a router.
yeah. But that's interesting because for the application file, the user needs to specify the router. That's a required option for to for beacon, for the beacon configuration.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to use the same. We can use the same function.
Where, oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Like when you, where in your config file, do you mean, or where do you set up the router you're
Uh,
saying that they need to specify?
yeah, there is let me open here. The other file we need to change besides the router is the application. You need to
Oh, right.
add the beacon supervisor in your application in
Okay.
your application supervisor, and one of the there are some required options here: the repo, endpoint, and router. Those three are required.
Okay.
So
Yeah, so that'll be fine. Yeah. So what you're saying is like when we modify that, we'll reuse the same router to make sure that it, yeah, and that makes perfect sense.
yeah,
So that, yeah, that's a little bit more complicated, but we'll get to that. We can do that. Um, so now you're gonna make an, oh yeah, pass router into the options like by with pipelines there. That way it knows which one to use. And then um, so now we're gonna need to make another function that'll be called, something like make router use uh, beacon or something like that, or use beacon in router. Doesn't really matter, but
and that's the one that is more manual. You mentioned.
yep, yeah. So what that's going to do is we're going to have to find and update the router module specifically. Um, and this is kind of a good, like a kind of an, not like, it's a decent example. It's a little bit manual, but you can still use like helpers and stuff. Um,
Mhm.
so what we're going to use in here, we already know that the router exists. So you'll need to take the router as an argument here. And so we can use a utility called igniter.project.module.find and update module. And there's an exclamation point version that you can use when you like know that the module already exists.
What's the name of the function again?
Find and update module. Yeah, and you want to use the exclamation point version. Yep. So then the first argument is the igniter. The second argument is the router module. Um, yep.
Let's see.
I need to take a drink of water. Okay. I don't know how loud my swallowing just was on stream because I forgot to mute myself, but um yeah, and so in here you get a zipper. This is like the low level data structure that we use to manipulate code.
Mhm.
So it's an anonymous function that takes one argument, which is zipper. Yep. And then I'll tell you, I'm just gonna send you the snippet that you should use. Um, okay, I sent that to you in Slack. So the way that this works is what we're doing is when you're operating on a zipper, you're like traveling through source code.
Mhm.
So we're kind of like moving around. And so what this does is first we go and we find the place where they're using where they use Phoenix.router inside of their router. And then we're going to add use beacon.router underneath that. So that's what this does. So that should do it for you. That should be the whole thing.
And it does figure out the position of these of the line, or do I
Yeah,
need to take care of that?
it figures it out like primarily because, well, it's not so much figuring out the line. It's like when you have a zipper, you have your position. So at first, when you first call this function, when you say find and update module, the zipper is at the top of the module body. So it's like
Mhm.
right underneath, def module thing do, you're right there.
Mhm.
And then when we say move to router use, the zipper like moves to where they say use Phoenix.router. And then when we say add code, the default is to add it after add code after the place where we are. So it should always be directly under use phoenix.router, which I think should be fine for what you're doing.
Okay. And I just need to call this function.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's something else to add here, or we can...
No, that should do it. Yeah.
Let's see. All right. Here we have the... Yep. Use Beacon router. Yeah, that's really nice.
Cool. All right. So what's next? What's the next thing you have to add? So there is kind of an interesting thing here. Now that you've applied these changes, I mean, if you run it again, you'll see what I mean. It's going to add like another one, you know? So you may want to like, this is like a whole other thing of DX. It's like, you may want to add like a step up front that says like, hey, like where you use the Igniter tools to like check and say like, hey, you already have a site at / or something like that, you know, like, are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
But for now, you know, just keep in mind that use beacon.router, for example, should probably do something like, actually that's an example of like, where it's doing actually the wrong thing, and it should probably check to see if there is a call to use beacon.router. So we could do that if you want. I could show you how to do that.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah.
So so above line, like where we say like move to router use, we're going to make a case statement, and we're going to say case igniter dot above that line. Before we do this, we'll say case, there's a helper for this. Let me double check what it's called. I think it's just called move to use. Yeah. So you'll say case igniter dot project dot module dot move to use. No, it's code dot module, igniter dot code dot module. Because we're like not creating modules, we're like inside the code of a module. So that's like kind of how it's laid out. So then you would, the zipper, and then you would look for beacon.router would be and I think you would want to use the atom beacon.router, like just the module name itself.
Okay.
Yep. So then you can say, if you get back a zipper, so if you like, okay, zipper, then we've moved to where you asked us to move to. So you can ignore that zipper and just return the okay parent, like the top level zipper, like, okay, they're already using it. So add like an underscore. This actually that doesn't matter. You can do it exactly like that. So then if you get back error, or whatever, anything else. So there you go. Now you're only going to add beacon.router if they aren't already using beacon.router. And this is an example of like a helper that probably should be in Igniter itself, like, you know, ensure uses or something like that. Ensure module uses. But for now, this is a good example of what it looks like.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Yeah. And eventually I'll need to add some check for the beacon side as well, because you are not supposed to have two beacon sides on the same path.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, like, you know, we can check a lot of different things, but it still can be kind of a difficult, like, there's no way to get it 100% right. But one of the things that we do is, if you're in a Git project, we warn you if you run an Igniter on a non-clean Git history, or like if you have like staged anything, you know, pending changes or whatever like that, we warn you about that. So that's one way that where it's like, we encourage people to like have committed everything that way. If they want to like undo a generator, they can just, you know, get rid of those changes in their Git history and that sort of thing. So there's some other quality of life things that we try to do on that front.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so if you still have time, the other file we need to change is the application. So this one is a bit more complex, because there is because first the first problem is you might or might not have the beacon child here,
Hmm.
because if you're adding a new site, and if you're adding the first site for the first time, you're not going to have this child here, so you need to add the child and a new site configuration.
Yep.
But for the second site, we need to append a new site in this list.
So we actually have a thing for doing exactly that. Um, so the way that this works is there's a function called igniter.project.application.add new child. Um, and that gives you the chance to add or update an existing child of the application supervision tree. So igniter.project.application, yep, add new child. And then the first argument would be so you already have igniter piped in. So you don't need that igniter argument there.
Yeah, yeah.
It'll be just the name of it. So like beacon, like the module that you want to supervise. Oh, actually, it'll be the tuple, like it'll be the default tuple that they should have. So maybe like you put that in a variable or something. It'll be like the whole big structure.
Yeah. So first we need, okay, so mhm. Okay, so let's see if I get this right. Because here we might have multiple sites, right?
Yeah.
And
So
different.
all we're doing right now is putting in what the default value, like if there is nothing, then it's going to use this tuple. And then if there is something, we can pass a separate callback to actually, is there not an updater?
But
Oh, there isn't.
I guess my question is how it's gonna match, and so it's gonna find, because the second argument for the supervisor, it might change. So it's gonna match on the first one.
Yeah, it only matches the first one.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Okay,
Um,
gotcha.
but I'm realizing now we actually don't have, um, there isn't an updater argument. Most of these things have an updater. Uh, let me see to perform, create an app, modify. Let me see this real quick. Uh, if there is a tool for this or not. Damn. Okay. So for now, I'm probably going to add something like today that will help you do this properly. But for
Hmm.
now, just use add new child, and like if you set that up where you just paste in exactly what it, like the tuple that it should be, um, then we can use. I'm going to need to add a thing. Let's see, where do we have this?
Yeah, so it'll be something like this. So another problem here, we need to take some arguments for the site, like the site name
Mm-hmm.
is one, and then the repo. Those are not required, but that's the minimum. Like that, those
Right.
are the required, um, you know, arguments you need to pass.
Yeah. You can potentially like discover um, those things automatically, like, because you already have the router. Um, and then the endpoint I think that's configured in the router somewhere, right? Like you can get the endpoint from a router.
Um, I I don't think so. Because I try to inspect a Phoenix application and trying to find the endpoint,
Mhm.
by inflection, but I didn't find a reliable way to do that.
Oh,
So
it's the other way around. The endpoint
yes,
connects to the router, but we have a thing
yes.
for this. I think it's like in lib/phoenix endpoints for router. There's a list of endpoints. Yeah, so you can get an endpoint. Um, Let me see. Do we have like a select endpoint? No. Okay. But yeah, there's igniter.libs.phoenix.endpoints for router that will give you a list of endpoints that routes to that router. And then you could like if there's multiple, like maybe for now you can just like you can I think it gives you an igniter. The first thing is an igniter, and then the second thing is the list of endpoints.
It's a tuple.
Yeah. So yeah, what you could do is you could like match on if there's multiple, and you could ask them like, which endpoint do you want to use or something like that. But that for now would just like that would raise an error if there's multiple or something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, gotcha. And then we have the repo. It's the same idea.
yeah. So we don't have lib/ecto. Yeah, we don't have an ecto module yet, but we would want the same thing as select router, but like select repo. Um, for now, like maybe just hard code, like use the module name tool to say like the like module name dot repo, and then we can I can add igniter.libs.ecto dot select repo. Because yeah, they'll even want to use that repo name. You should maybe actually add a to do on that. You want to use that repo name in the migration generator too. I think instead of just repo, you want to. It's where the migrations are. It is depending on the repo. Because that if it's like it could be like priv/repo 2 dot migrations or something like that. Like it depends on the last part of the module name where the migrations live. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll handle that too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna add you know, we want uh, libs ecto gen or select repo, and then we want also libs ecto generate migration, or probably libs ecto migration module. Yeah, okay, we'll have like generate migration.
Yeah, and I'm gonna push this branch so
Okay,
you can inspect it on the repo. So if that
perfect.
helps.
Yeah. Okay, and then yeah, you
Yeah,
want to
but
pass in your site argument as well, right?
yeah, so that's gonna be a new one here. So let's say site, let's say stream and site
Perfect.
and same. I'm just, you know, that should do it for now.
Mhm. Yep. And then you'll want to like turn that into an atom, I think, as well.
Yeah, because here it's addon here as well. There's some, yeah, I think everywhere it's gonna be addon. So I can
Yeah.
I clean up this code later. So just that, let's make
Yeah,
it
no,
work now.
I think that's totally fine. Yeah. You want to use inspect there so that you get the little colon in front of the, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Okay. So this should do what you want, except it's not going to do what you want on the second call because, well, you can see it. It's just gonna like let's try it now. We can generate a site, and you should see that it hopefully it's gonna do what you want. Oh, there is one other thing though, because I think you want the beacon site to be started before. It kind of depends, like where you want the site to be added in the tree.
It can be at the end after the endpoint. It's
Oh, it
fine.
can. Okay, so in that case, probably best because you probably want it after the repo though, and stuff like that.
Yeah, it
So
has to be after the repo. Yes.
okay, got it. I think in the docs, is it after the repo?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's after the repo and above the endpoint is where it is, right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
usually it goes uh, here it comes before, but it doesn't matter. The repo is required to be, before
Yep.
the repo, but the
Okay.
endpoint is not necessary.
So what we have an option right now, which is you can say when you're saying add new child, you can have pass the after option and like add a list of modules that it should appear after. Um, and so it would have to be after the repo, I think, right? Is the main rule that you have.
Yeah.
Okay. You could also just make it after the endpoint, which that has to be after the repo also. So you could just say like after, yeah.
So the app option is after.
Yep. And then you can pass a list. So it'd be a list. Yeah. And then the endpoint. Yep. I think you need a, yep. Okay. That should do it, I think. Yeah. Perfect.
Interesting. And if I say like after, I can say something like this as well.
Just to be sure. Yeah. That's a
Yeah.
good idea.
Okay.
Um, okay. So now yeah, so it puts it at the end because the way it works is we like go until there's nothing after us that is in the after list or whatever, but um so now if you save these changes, you'll see that well, yeah, you have that duplicate.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so it will, if you run it again, it's just not going to add the child, but that's not actually what you want. You want to manipulate the you want to add a
Yes.
new site to the list of sites. That right now is not supported in add new child. And the reason for that is we need to give you an updater function that will update the options. Like we'll call it probably something like ops updater. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where you pass in a function and that takes a zipper, and then you can use our tools to like, append to a list and, add, you can, so I'll have to write that option to, let me make sure I have that on my list as well. So that's add new child needs a ops update ops update ops option. Okay, cool. So then, yeah, what you'll do is there's a helper in like igniter.co, like you can't do it now, but igniter.code.list, and you can say like append to list, and then you would just add, put in like the configuration, the corresponding configuration for a new site, and then uh, that would do what you want.
Yeah. And here it's kind of a nested list because we have the options for the supervisor, for the beacon supervisor, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then we have the sites. So we need to add a new option or a new entry in the sites
Yeah,
list. So
that should be fine. When I do this, I can show you kind of what it looks like. We have igniter.code.keyword dot, put key or set key or something. And then that set key function takes the zipper, the key you're changing, and then the value, but also like an updater, like if it's already there. So basically like you should be able to use that to like put into the site's key, this function that will update and that sort of thing. So,
mhm.
um, okay. So this to me, I think looks, oh, my camera's frozen. Uh, oh, there you go. It just caught up. Weird. Um, this looks, I think, like probably a good stopping point because now there's a couple things that you need from me to, uh, to make this sort of work nicely. Um, and I think that's also like the last, like the adding it to the supervision tree is the last step for just installing base beacon sites, right?
Yeah. Eventually, that's something we are discussing now. Eventually, we need a CLI for Beacon, so we can, you can do stuff like you can download the data from your site, and then you can change it locally. Like
Mm,
you can change a page or a component or whatever, and eventually you upload that resource back to your production site just
mhm,
using CLI and through RPC. So that's going to be a CLI. So I was hoping to use Igniter to basically build this CLI because it's going to be a bunch of mixed tasks.
mhm. Yeah, I
So
think
that,
that should be
yeah.
possible. It's kind of interesting. I mean, it's an interesting question. Like, will it be modifying? If it's going to be modifying the project at all, then like that definitely would make sense. But if it's just a CLI, it's kind of interesting because Igniter has a bunch of tools for writing nice little CLI tasks. So you could just use it for that and not do code
I mean,
running
for
through it.
example, it's gonna issue a RPC call, for example, and retrieve some data from your site,
Hmm.
and then it's gonna create a new file
Oh,
on
okay.
your
Yeah.
file. So you can, for example, use the create file functions from Igniter,
Hmm.
and we and and that's fine. That's cool because we can use like, hey, if this file exists, or present some questions or whatever, so you can use the helper functions from
Yep.
Igniter. So I think it's gonna help us. It's gonna be,
Okay.
you know, gonna be good to use it. So essentially, the installer, the generators, and the CLI, everything is gonna be Igniter.
Cool. Yeah, that's really cool. There is one other. I was thinking about this the other night, and I realized like Beacon. Um, okay, this is kind of an out there idea, but something that we've wanted for that is on my like roadmap to build for Ash is a visual editor for Ash resources. And so an Ash resource is kind of like an ecto schema, but if the ecto schema could do like everything in your app, like if you could have like you can have like a GraphQL configuration, so you get like this one data structure that you can create new things and you can and so with what I haven't really used Beacon yet. I played around with it like a while back and I'm very interested in it. But what I'm imagining is if part of your Beacon setup, right, is you can go modify your resources, right? You could like add a GraphQL endpoint, for example, on a resource visually, right? All at the same time. Like it could like it's just this concept of like if Beacon is like this like your one stop, it basically would be like a no code tool where you could like go in and like uh add GraphQL endpoints or change anything about your app and that sort of thing. And have it modify the code corresponding to that. Um, I don't know if it's like if that's really how it would pan out, but it would be pretty interesting.
Yeah. So let me show here real quick. It's not the intention of the, but let's say, for example, here's the admin
Mm-hmm.
for the Dockyard staging website. Um, so the idea is, for example, here we have the homepage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have the code editor on the admin interface, and some users may be okay with these code editors, but some other people might want to use their local environment.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to find a way to enable users to like download these template
Mm-hmm.
and change it locally and then upload it back to your site.
Yeah.
So the idea is to make it work in a cluster, like with RPC. And here we have the visual editor, right? So that's the no code tool. So some people might prefer to use the visual editor. Some people might prefer to use, just write Higgs code. So essentially, the igniter is gonna play a role here to kind of have, make the bridge between your local environment and the production site. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the idea.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I mean, we could do the same exact thing with like with an Ash resource, for example. Um, where like if I have like an API, I could go in and I could like add a field. And like so one of the cool things is like with Ash resources, you can generate migrations like automatically. So what you could do is I could go into my site. Let's say like I've got like a I don't know, a Spotify type app, right? And I want to add um I want to add like a published date to my albums, right? I could go into the visual editor and I could just add a published date, and then I could hit some like a save button that would generate migrations and run them and save it like right there live. So you could actually like, and then I could go into, my visual editor and I could like add, there like to use that new field. So you could have like a full feature development life cycle all in one place. And like you said, with like the ability to have edit, this is the dream for me, is like the ability to have, coders working on idiomatic code and people
Mm-hmm.
who aren't coders able to make like smaller scope or reasonable changes without it, right? Like I should be able to like make the background blue as a person who's not a programmer without having to like submit a ticket to my developers. And I think that simultaneously we can actually allow that sort of thing even for like the data model, even for like adding new features and that need new fields. Or maybe like you can go in and add a rule, like somebody says they has an age field and somebody said they're 500 and you're like, no, that doesn't make any sense. So I can go in and I could just say like, the maximum age is 99, or well, that doesn't make sense either, but you get my point. Like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it could be kind of like a match made in heaven if you can edit all of those things in one place.
Yeah, I think for Beacon, it's a similar idea. Um, it's kind of similar. I mean, Ash. I would say it's the regular application or the your backend application, your product, and Beacon is the public side, your landing page. But the idea for Beacon is essentially the same or very similar. Like, for example, uh, I was thinking about these, for for a few days now. But the idea is like, would be nice to have like a Beacon generate page, and you can
Mm-hmm.
say like, for example, I'm gonna create a new page for the like contact page, for example, and then this generator is gonna create a new Higgs file for me locally, and then I can add this file, and eventually I can just say, hey, upload uh, something like this. I don't know, the page and contact, something like that. Like, so we can use the CLI to bootstrap some files for us, and even whole sites of
Yeah.
pages and components and all that stuff. And then you make the changes that you want, and eventually you just upload those changes. And since Beacon runs at runtime, it's the same as, for example, let me show here. For example, instead of hi, it's gonna say, you see, there's a hi here. So instead of hi, it's gonna say hello. So when you upload the resource here, it's gonna apply the changes live for you.
Yeah.
So you don't need to deploy the application or whatever. So you can make the changes live, and given that you have permission to upload the changes, it just applies the change for you. So it's really, so that's kind of the idea. So you're talking about having generators and having comments to change the data structure for application. I think Beacon has kind of the same idea,
Mm-hmm.
where you can use generators, you can make some changes and just apply the changes.
Yeah.
I
I mean, I
kind of
think
feel it's similar.
I think if depending on how it all works out, like Beacon would be like, I wouldn't. I think it would just be the same thing. Like I would just start making PRs to Beacon that have features for changing resources in the same way, right? And it's like now I can, because sometimes you have like data driven stuff. Like let's say there's like a team members page, right? And like the team members page is supposed to use like, maybe you have a database table for like the people who are on your team, right? And there's like a
Hmm.
profile picture URL and like all that stuff. And then, you want to like loop over your team members, right? And yeah, like that kind of thing, right? Um, and I guess you have the data features backed by Ecto, but like you can't, or can you like edit? Could you add a field to like what team members are right there? You can.
Yeah. So yeah. So if essentially, so here on this page, on the team members page on the Dockyard website,
Mm-hmm.
this list of employees is actually a it's just a table. It's just a schema on our application. It's managed by Beacon on the admin interface because we can have custom pages in
Mm-hmm.
Beacon, but the data structure is just an actual schema,
Right.
right? So it's kind of what you are saying here. Like you can, for example, add a new. We could have a generator to add new fields or do something with the with the data structure, which eventually um, change the site as well, because the site is baked by this page is baked by the data structure.
Yeah.
So if you change the data structure, the actor schema, it changed the beacon site your page as well.
Right. I think the interesting thing to me though is like I want to be able to go into like that employees list, right? And just like add a new field. So there's like first name, last name. I want to be able to say like add middle name, like like live, and have it like automatically run those migrations and add a new field and that sort of thing. Which we could do like if it was an Ash resource instead of an Ecto schema. There's a function you can call that would say generate migration, and then you could run the migrator like right there live and like modify your data model live, which I think would be pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. Because the idea of beacon is to be part of your application. You don't need to generate a new Phoenix application just to use beacon, right?
Right.
And the idea is that you can reuse your data structures. So if we have generators to change the data structure on your application, we can also have generators to to change your site and
Yeah.
upload
I
your
guess
site and that kind of stuff.
it's a good point that the argument would basically just be like just change the Ecto schema and publish the site again or something like that. Um, but question: how easy would it be? Like, so right now, how tied to Ecto are these data sources? Like, if I wanted my employees list to be like an Ash resource instead of an Ecto schema, how easy would that be to do?
Um, yeah, for the employees table, for employees schema is just a regular active schema. There is nothing, you know, nothing really special here. It's just a simple table
Mm-hmm.
with a list of employees.
But do I tell
Uh,
Beacon like use this Ecto schema, or do I say like call this function to get the data or something like that? Like how like because for Ash, like an Ash resource is a far richer thing than like an Ecto schema, for example. So I wouldn't want to like I'm generally pretty against connecting things directly to Ecto schemas because it's like that's a very like low level connect directly to my database. But for Ash, we can have things like computer properties and all these different things, right? That are like a layer in between whatever's requesting data and the thing itself. Oh, okay. So it's code that generates that data.
yeah.
Okay, that's
So
easy. That's great. Perfect.
yeah. So in Beacon we have this idea of live data, which is just assigns. You can
Mhm.
create new assigns at runtime, and we just create these. So we have these employees assigned, which execute this data. So that's the bridge between your site and your application, and you can have whatever code you want here.
Perfect.
So here we are just calling the context functions and to fetch the data for us.
Okay. Yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly what I want. So I can get and is params, is that the query parameters to the page?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. That's awesome. That's cool. All right. That's good news. Cause like
Yeah.
there's a lot. I mean, yeah, I can do anything I want with that basically.
Yeah. So essentially, Beacon is a layer on top of your existing Phoenix application. It's
Mhm.
not a new application. It is supposed to work with your application.
Right. Cool. Well, I'm excited. I think yeah, there's a lot of cases where I think like I think the Ash HQ website, because the Ash HQ website used to be a lot like smarter and more dynamic, but now um it's more pretty much just static content. And like I was thinking
Hmm.
about like that would be a perfect example of something to rebuild with Beacon, just to keep it like simple and easy to modify, and like the visual editor sounds really nice to like make the changes that I want to make. And I think there's a lot of examples where something like Beacon, I mean, Beacon specifically, would be a really good answer to like certain content on your site. Like, you because you can have like, I love that you can just have like your home marketing page be this, and it's that whole Elixir can do anything thing where it's like just a dependency that I added in my project, and now my marketing page has a visual editor, and without impacting any of the other things that I'm doing. Like it's a really exciting concept. So I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to it.
yeah, and Beacon has a separate supervisor. So if your Beacon site crashes for some reason, it should not impact your application,
Yeah.
right? So that's the idea.
Yeah, because Erlang and Elixir are awesome like that. It's so cool.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's it's magic the way that that works. Because like if this was like a Python app or something, like no way in hell would I try to conflate, to like make my server, any one server, do like five different overarching things, because like you
Hmm.
said, you need to isolate failures and do all this stuff. But like with Elixir, it's like you just don't really have that problem, and it's so much easier like to just like put it all up in one simple server. Like even, DHH has been talking about this a lot, right? Which is like just simplify. Like you don't need all these services. And I'm like, yeah, we know. we, we've we've been doing this for
Yeah,
a long time, and it's like
yeah.
I can
Hey,
have
that's
one
how we
app.
operate here.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So cool. Hey, this was a lot of fun. I think we're in a good spot there. I've got some stuff. I'll probably do that stuff today, and I'll let you know how it goes. And then we can just. It seems like it shouldn't be too hard to get from where we are to like having the full um, installers after that point.
All right, perfect. Yeah, and thank you so much for first for the library for Igniter, because we really need that kind of application, kind of library for Elixir.
Mhm.
That's really, really needed, because the install that we have now, and pretty much every project does now, is just rejects, which has a bunch of problems. So yeah, that's really, really cool. And thank you for your time for
Yeah,
helping with Beacon.
my pleasure, my pleasure, and thank you for Beacon. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, have a good one.